Hello again, Saints. Pastor Dave here with another weekly devotional for you. I'm going to start again with a reading from Sarah Arthur's 1 Year Daily Grind, and this one is sort of about endurance. I love Elijah, the Old Testament prophet. He was such a wonderful mixture of saintly zeal and human frailty. One minute he was calling down fire from heaven and trouncing the prophets of the god Baal. The next minute he was running for his life from the threats of Queen Jezebel and her henchmen. Like Jonah, he fled alone into the desert and sat down under a leafy plant to die. He truly believed he was the only person left alive who still called upon the name of the Lord, the God of his ancestors. The rest had sold out to Jezebel and her false god, or so he thought. God sent him on a 40-day journey back to the mountain of Moses, Mount Sinai, where the people of Israel first received the Ten Commandments. Here, apparently, was where the great leaders encountered God in times of crisis, where idolatry and false worship threatened to undo the very fabric of the nation. Here was where the living God spoke. And indeed, here was where he spoke to Elijah, not in a mighty wind or earthquake or fire, but famously in a whisper. It's no big task God called Elijah to, either. Instead of saying, "You're my great prophet like Moses, and I'll give you another victory in fire and power. Indeed, Baal will be vanquished forever," God said, "Go back. Yep, take the road back to my people and start a quiet revolution there. Anoint a new king here, a new prophet there, but keep it all under the radar, hush hush. And while you're whispering, I will preserve 7,000 others in Israel who have never bowed down to Baal." How many religious leaders can relate to what Elijah probably felt at that moment? When I was in full-time youth ministry, there was a season when I simply wanted to give up and leave town. Just when I wanted God to flex his muscles and do something awesome, he backed off and kept quietly in the background. And when I felt like I was the only one left who had my spiritual act together, God whispered, "Stay. There are others." But it took all my willpower to stick it out until spiritual life and health became the norm again. But it did. Just because things are crummy in your faith community right now, that doesn't mean God wants you to leave. Well, Saints, that devotional really jumped out to me because of something else that I read recently about toxicity in our relationships. I don't know if that's a word or a term that you use, but a lot of people in the younger generations are calling others or calling their behavior toxic as a way of saying that, this is a person who you don't want to be around. This is a person who is kind of emotional poison to you. And so that word gets used often to kind of as a reason or an excuse for cutting someone off and ending relationships, ending community, because that person there is toxic and I don't want to be around them. I think that that's something that certainly can happen. There can be valid reasons for cutting someone out of your life. But as the story about Elijah reminded us, as the story that Sarah shared reminds us, there are times when we feel overwhelmed. We feel like the situation is unhealthy, and the people around us don't support us. But that's simply not true. That our perspective is skewed or is flawed, and in those moments, maybe God is whispering to us, "It's time to hold on. It's time to endure. It's time to trust me and believe that it will get better." Saints, I don't know what kind of relationships you're in right now. Sometimes they are very hard to hold on to. They are very hard to stick with it when it feels painful and it feels like the other person or the other group does not have your best interests at heart, when it feels like you're under threat or you're being taken advantage of. That might be the reality, but it also might be the case that if you hold on, you'll recognize that there are others who care for you, who are pulling for you, who are in support of you. It might be in that relationship that you think is toxic or is poisoned or is unhealthy or is beyond saving, that there is still a bond of love and respect that can be reawakened and can reemerge. So I wonder, saints, how will you work to find that? How will you work to not just cut off community, but to restore community in your own life? That's your devotional for this week. Hope it's helpful and worth thinking about. I hope you are doing well, and I'm praying for you. Please keep praying for me, and I will see you again soon. Take care, saints.